Today, I'm going to be showing you guys how to shoot football like a pro. I'll be talking about shooting, positioning, gear, including lenses and camera bodies, and posting for social media. So when you first get to the stadium, I'd recommend getting there over an hour early because the players will come out about an hour before game time. So I'd recommend already being there by the time the players get out for pregame. But once you get there, you're going to find a spot for your bag, whether that's up in the press box. Some football stadiums don't have a press box, so you're not able to go in the press box. That's the safest option for your bag, but I almost don't recommend it for football, and here's why. Having quick access to different camera bodies, different lenses, different mics, more batteries, a tripod if you need one, down on the field is really helpful. That way you're not running up to the press box. I would never recommend that. I know it is very different when it comes to like college level where like you actually have to keep your stuff up in the press box, but on the high school level, if you're able to keep most of that stuff with you, I would highly recommend that. That way you're not making multiple trips up and down to the press box. I'd really recommend setting your bag down because football games can last anywhere from 2 hours to 3.5 hours. You never know, especially some crazy overtime games. And you don't want to be carrying all that weight on your shoulders. That hurts. And so carrying that for that long is terrible. So I'd really recommend setting your bag down somewhere, or at least taking a bunch of stuff out of your bag and setting that somewhere else, and then just keeping your necessities on you. I'd really recommend. So let's jump right into pregame. Pregame, this is really your chance to be the most creative throughout the whole game and get some very unique shots, a lot of emotion involved with some of these shots. This is the time where you can really get up and personal with these players, assuming the coach and the players are okay with it. But this is your one chance throughout this whole experience to really get in to what the players are feeling. A lot of times if you're shoving a camera in their face, hopefully they'll give you a little reaction or something that would be usable, but it could also be the opposite. They're just completely locked in. There's always those like very viral clips of people just like meditating or like just locked in before a game. So this is really your chance to dip your toes into what the players might be feeling at this time. We're going to touch more into what gear I'm using later in the video, but for pregame, I'm using a wide angle lens, like a 24-70. That way I can really get close to these guys, and I'm not like standing on the sideline shooting from far away, but I can actually get up right next to these guys and hopefully they'll give me something for the camera. Just be cautious on where you're filming and make sure you're not in the middle of any warm-ups. Like they could be running routes and just run right into you because they're focused on their warm-ups and you weren't paying attention. So really just be careful. In this pregame section, you have the coin toss. I'd really recommend going to the coin toss because this is the point where these players are looking tough. They're looking at the other team straight in the eyes. They're like, yeah, they just look like dogs. Most of the time they're just locked in and you get some really cool shots with that. So I'd really recommend that. For me, when I'm shooting warm-ups, I'm usually shooting in the more cinematic type feel. I'm focusing on framing more than I am the action. So I'd really recommend trying something out and focusing more on the cinematography of your shots instead of just focusing on like all this action. Like this is really the time to slow things down, I think, and really just focus on more emotion into these shots. So let's jump into the actual game because really this is the most important part of the game. Like if you didn't shoot any warm-ups, that's not a big deal, but the game time is actually the game. That's when you gotta lock in and make sure you're getting the content that actually is most valuable to the players, to who you're working for, to yourself. That's when it's actually go time. I'd highly recommend having the action always come towards you, never away from you. There are 11 people on each team, so 22 total players. Then you got what seems like 20 refs. They're always in the way. Then you got coaches, a bunch of other players on the sideline, athletic trainers. You got so many people on the sidelines and so many people that you're trying to dodge to film. And if you're just tucked back in the end zone, you don't have to worry about this. But if you're on the sideline, there are so many things that can go wrong compared to when you're in the end zone and the action is coming towards you. I never ever film when the action is going away from me because, like I said, you got 22 people that are going to get in the way of your shot, and you never get any of the emotion of, oh, first down or touchdown celebration. So it's very, very rare that you want to shoot when the action isn't coming towards you. So like I said, for the most part, I'm really in that end zone There are times when I'm kind of by the pylon, when I know that they're kind of working their way up towards the field, but most of the time I really like being in the end zone because you never know when a 50-yard pass or a long run, kickoff return, you never know when that stuff is going to happen. So I'd really recommend trying to be in the end zone as long as you can. This is the perfect time to start talking about gear on like why I choose to be in the end zone. So when it's actually the game time, I switch to my Sony 70-200 or any 70-200 or any longer focal length lens than you were shooting warm-ups with is perfect. I think it's the best for football. 70-200 can't be beat. There are times though where you're like, dang, I wish I had a wide lens, but maybe sometimes you just got to take a couple steps back in that end zone, because players don't understand how lenses work. They see the lens and they run right up to you, and you don't get the shot because they don't know that you were using a 70-200, and that's the worst thing ever. But that's very rare that happens. There are a lot of times where in the 70-200, I'm shooting down the field, I'm getting pretty cool reactions, I'm getting some crazy stuff, and 70-200 is a beast of a lens, and I'd really recommend it for football, and it's going to be very useful for other sports too. So like I said, being in the end zone is your best friend when the action is coming towards you. I've shot 2 games this year, and already there have been multiple occasions when I'm in the perfect spot where the players just run right up to me because I'm the only camera in the end zone because everyone else is kind of moving with the ball, and I don't think that's at all what you should do. I very rarely think you should be shooting inwards towards the players. The action should always be coming towards you, and you can sometimes be the only person in the end zone filming this type of stuff, and so the players are just drawn to celebrate to your camera, which obviously you want the most clips of players coming up to you. And I think another thing that really is important to do is when I'm filming warm-ups, I'm getting up close and personal with these dudes, so they're already getting comfortable with the camera in their face, and then they see me in the end zone, and then they want to celebrate to my camera because they saw me all the warm-ups filming them. So then they're so drawn to be like, oh, I recognize that dude with the camera, I'm gonna run up to him. I think this is a perfect segue into gear because you kind of just follow this recipe throughout the whole game of, okay, the ball's coming this way, I need to be on that side of the ball, of the action coming towards me. And you kind of just learn as the game goes on that this is how you're supposed to do things, and it's kind of just rinse and repeat at that point. So I think this is the perfect time to start talking about gear because football's tough, and sometimes you are shooting in the middle of the night, the stadium lights are terrible, and so I think I just want to talk about the gear that I use and the gear that I recommend for football. So like I mentioned, for warm-ups, any wide angle lens, a 24-70, you can even get like a 16 prime, you can get a bunch of different lenses. Really get that wide angle because this is one of the only times that you're going to be able to shoot this wide, and it gives off this very unique look. This framing looks amazing. So this is the one time that you're going to be able to use this type of lens throughout the game. The only other time that you're going to use that lens is post-game, if you get some really cool reactions of players celebrating post-game, but we'll touch on post-game later. So I am personally using the Sony FX3. It's a beast of a camera, and here's why I fully recommend this camera for sports videography is because of football. You're shooting outdoors. You're never really aware of the lighting situations until you are shooting it and you realize all your stuff was underexposed. But the FX3 being able to shoot an S-Log3 at a base ISO of 12,800, if you guys don't know what that means, that pretty much means I'm getting the best quality image while shooting at a base ISO of 12,800. That is massive. Some cameras don't even go up that high, and if they do, you're gonna get all this noise and it's just gonna look ridiculous. But the fact that I can get a very clean image in almost pitch black it's insane. Like, that's why I recommend this camera. I've had this camera for 2.5, 3 years, and I've never once been like, this camera isn't up to its standards, I need to upgrade. So it's been worth my investment, instead of other people that get a camera, then they have to upgrade in 6 months, and then they upgrade that again, and then they upgrade again. So you're really just out the money. If you really want to invest into some high quality, long lasting gear, the FX3 is your guy. Then like I said, I'm using a Sony 70-200. Any 70-200 is perfect for actual gameplay. I'd really recommend getting a 2.8, not a variable aperture lens. Variable aperture pretty much means as you zoom in, your iris, your f-stop will change, making your image darker. And like we mentioned before, if you're shooting at terrible lighting situations, you want your image to be the brightest it can without changing once you zoom in. And I would avoid those at any cost. You might see a 70-200 or like a 70-300 or stuff like that, and you're like, dang, that is way cheaper than the 70-200. But that's because the f-stop changes. That's because your image is getting darker as you zoom in and you can't control it. So I'd really avoid it. Yes, the price is cheaper, but once again, you're paying for that quality and long-lasting gear, and it's just not reliable. So the next thing isn't necessarily too important, but you know, down the road, it's really important, and that's audio. And so I use the Rode Video Pro Plus. I think that's what it's called. I've had, once again, this mic forever, and we can just talk about the battery life. Like, I don't remember last time I had to charge this mic, and it has literally lasted me forever. It's very rarely that I have to plug in that mic for it to charge. So it's very reliable, sounds great, plugs right into your camera. It's perfect. The next thing I would really recommend if you guys are trying to go all in on this is getting a monitor. Football is so hard to shoot without a monitor. You're looking through this tiny little screen and you can't even see the ball. They're running trick plays, you don't even know who has the ball. But getting a decent sized monitor so you can actually follow the ball, follow the action is huge, especially for football. I praise the monitor during football. I think for basketball and other sports you can get away without using a monitor, but you need it to shoot video for football. Me personally, I use the Atomos Shinobi 2, and this is great because I can actually put LUTs into the monitor and I can see what my footage is going to look like before I even go to edit it on my laptop. Speaking of color grades, you can get all the color grades that I used in this video down in the description below. But back to the video, you can download those right into the monitor, and that's huge. That's very valuable to see, oh, maybe my white balance needs to change because of how this LUT is changing the whites or changing their skin tone. So it's very important that you download LUTs or at least get like a basic Rec 709 to show you what your grade is going to look like. This really isn't a gear tip. It's actually the abstinence of gear. It's no gear, but I really recommend shooting handheld football. I know that there are a bunch of dudes that shoot with fluid heads or a bunch of stuff that really makes it easier for you to carry and maneuver your gear, but what I found works is I push my whole gear up into my chest, and that acts as like the third point of contact for me filming. The last thing that I really would recommend is getting more batteries than you think you need. I have 4 total Sony batteries plus a V-mount battery. That way I can always charge either my monitor or charge my camera. But football's long. You never know how long these games are gonna last. Like I mentioned, like it could go into like 8 overtimes. So you never know. And always keep those batteries on you. That way you don't have to run over to your bag. I always make sure I am wearing pockets with extra batteries in it. And I really think that's all the gear that you need. A good camera that is great in low light, good lens that's great in low light. Audio isn't a huge concern, but I love good sounding audio. You can kind of just tell when it's from the camera. Monitor's huge, and really that's it. Extra batteries if you need them, if you don't have access to charging throughout the game. But yeah, that's all the gear you need that I think is very valuable for shooting football. And lastly, we'll talk about post-game and a little bit about posting for social media and how that all works. So post-game is huge. This is like the chance when these players are celebrating off a big win or could be upset after a loss, but you really get more emotion than you do in the warm-ups. So you got to make sure you switch to your short lens, your wide angle lens again and make sure that that bag was close. This is why I mentioned the bag being close is important, so that way you can switch to your lens real quick. Let's say a Hail Mary just happened. You got to be able to switch to your lens real quick, then run out on the field and film these dudes celebrating. So make sure you guys have your bag close so you can switch to your wide angle lens. And like I mentioned, this is where they show emotion after a win or a loss. So really get up close and personal with these dudes and film them. I've gotten some crazy clips already after just shooting 2 games this year of players celebrating to the camera, and it's an awesome feeling, man. I wish you guys could see my smile when these players are coming up to my camera. And once again, this is because I filmed them during warm-ups. I got up close and personal with them. They came to me in the end zone and they celebrated to me, and then I'm there again filming them once they win. So this is really your chance to get close and personal with these dudes and film them. They love the screen time. They adore it. So lastly, I kind of want to touch about posting for social media, because social media is in the day and age where everything is vertical. So making sure your content is vertical, sustainable, meaning when you shot your clips, you were wide enough just so you can crop vertical. That's why having a monitor is really valuable. I have the grids on my monitor so I can see exactly what vertical content will be and what's going to fit inside those vertical lines. And football's tough. Football's a fast moving sport, so I'd really recommend getting a monitor so that way you can track what is actually going to be on vertical. It's very important. And then also make sure you guys are tagging these players. Let's say you get a dope clip of this catch or crazy reactions. Make sure you're tagging these players in these videos so then they hopefully repost it. Their whole team sees it, the school sees it, and you eventually grow a following that way. So really make sure you tag the players, and it helps grow your account as well. And just be creative, have fun with it. Football is a very popular sport. People love football, but it's very challenging to shoot, and people don't realize that there's a lot of things that you have to focus on. But overall, it's one of the best sports that I've ever shot. Before I started filming, I hated football. Football games are so long. I've never understood it, but now I fully understand football. I love football. I love filming football. It's easily one of my top sports to film. The emotion that goes into football, the plays are so cool. It's literally the best experience ever. Basketball and football, best sports to film, and I'd really recommend having fun with it. Like, it's so much fun to film football, be out on the field, and yeah, it's a dope experience. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm gonna be doing a thing each week where I'm shouting out different creatives and checking out their page and giving up helpful tips or even insight on how to be better at videography. So drop your Instagrams below, but to do that, be eligible, you have to comment something nice. So whether that's about me, about the video, what you took away from it, you have to comment something nice and then just drop your Instagram down right after that comment, and I'll review your page. I'll give you insight on the next video, but I'm only picking one person from each video, and then it repeats, so then you got to do it again next video. But it's something that I want to do. I want to help you guys grow and get better, and hopefully I'll learn something from you guys too. So I think that is the everlasting goal, is to just continue to grow, continue to teach everyone, and continue to learn from everyone. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.